Hello again, everyone. We are going to continue our Java OpenGL 2D game development tutorial series. I realize it has been over a year since the last time I uploaded a video. To explain, I'll try and keep the explanation brief. I've been extremely busy and have not been able to commit a lot of time to these videos because I didn't actually have that many people watching the videos back whenever I last stopped working on them, and apparently a bunch of people have, well, not a bunch, but some people have started watching again, so I guess I will continue, and we'll see what happens. I will upload as often as I can. I make no promises, because as soon as I make a promise, I end up breaking it. So, last time, if I remember right, I had to reconstruct some of my code because of a hard drive failure, but anyway. Last time, what we got working was this little player sort of object on a red background. And as you can see, we can rotate around to looking at the mouse, and we move around like this with the W, A, S, and D keys. It's basically the prototype of a top-down shooter. So, today what we're going to try and get working is we're going to make the camera follow the player. Well, actually, no, we're not going to do that yet, because if we did, you'd have no way of knowing, because we would look at the screen, and since we've got no background but that red color, there's no texture to the background, we wouldn't be able to tell if we're moving. It would literally look like this. Right now, I'm not moving the player, but if the camera followed the player, it would look like this, because the player would stay in the middle of the screen, so we can't tell whether the player is moving. So what we should get going right now is we should start setting up the basics of like a sort of tile system, I suppose, so that we can sort of get some background. I don't know if I'm going to do a tile system or what I'm going to use exactly, but we're going to try and make it so that we get some background that the player can walk around on. So, let's get started. Well, yeah. So, what we're going to look at is, if I seem a little slow, it's because I forget how some of my code works if I don't look at it for a year. Okay, in our world class, we have this. We've got world. So basically, the world has an array of game objects. It goes through them in update and updates them. It goes through them in render and renders them. What we want to do, if we're going to do a tile system for backgrounds, is we're going to want to render the tiles first. So let's go ahead and create a private static array list of type game object. We're going to call these background objects, and is equal to a new array list of type game object. Now, so what I'm thinking we're going to do right now is we're going to create an array of background objects. These objects do not interact with the foreground objects, they are simply in the background. Well, really what we want to do is we want to create a specific type of object for our tiles. Let's go ahead and say array list of type tile for this, and we'll call this tiles. So private static array list of type tile, we're going to call it tiles. Now you save this, obviously we have no tiles, so you'll get an error right now. We're going to go ahead and create that. We'll create that in the world package. Create a new class, and we're going to call it tile. Now, your error in the world should go away. Now tile, for the moment, let's say it extends game object, because that'll help us out here. As you can see, game object already has X and Y position and width and height, so those are already some useful things we've got there. Rotation won't be as relevant to the tile system, I don't think. We'll see what happens later on. Animations, in case you want to have animated tiles, and current animation equals 0. So we've got all those things going. So for the tile, let's see. A tile needs to have... Well, really, at the moment, there's not too much reason to have a new tile class. The reason I'm doing it is because there's future functionality that we'll want to add to this tile class, and it'll be a lot easier to just go ahead and create the class. Create the class and have it extend game object, rather than using an array of game objects and then changing that to an array of tiles later. So, let's go ahead and create some tiles, I guess. I'll put it in the org.test. Actually, no, I won't. We're going to create a new package for this, because we're not trying to create an extendable game engine so much as a specific game. So I'm going to create org.world.tiles, and this will contain our types of tiles. So let's create a new class, and we'll call it grass tile. Grass tile, obviously we want it to extend tile. Import tile so that we can get rid of that error. And now what we need is basically when we create a grass tile, so that's our constructor right there, we need to load an image resource. Now, the way we did that, we'd create an image resource with a path that leads us to... Oh, hang on, did I have a resource manager? I don't think I did. We didn't do a resource manager, I remember now. Like I said, I got to look at my old code to see how we did this. Okay, yeah. So like what we did in our test player object from last time, we created some animations in the test player thing that basically loaded our animations and added them to the game object's animations array. Then in update, we did our code for updating and all that, and the object should draw itself because of GameObject.render plays the current animation. So all we have to do for a tile is create a new image resource. Let's see, what in the world is this? Animation 1 equals new image resource 1. What does this mean? I'm trying to figure out what my old code does. Okay, yeah, I think I understand it. So in tile, no, not tile, grass tile, sorry. We're going to say animations, just like in here, we're going to create animations equals new animation 1. So a new array of animations. So animations equals new animation array, and this will contain 1 because it only needs to hold 1. Go ahead and import animation, and we're going to say animations 1. Yep, animation 0, because that's the first element in an array, equals new animation. Like that. Now, as like what we did in test player, we need to add some image resources, or rather, we need to add an array of image resources to the frames object of the animation. So, we're going to go animations 0.frames equals new image resource array with a length of 1, because our grass is not going to animate. Now, import image resource to get rid of the error. And then like what we did in here, we simply assign a new image resource to a slot in the array of frames of the animation. So hopefully that's not too confusing. So animations 0.frames, we're getting a little bit of slowing down. My computer freezes every now and then. Animation 0.frames 0 equals new image resource. Now we want to give this a path to our image resource. And that path, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in res. So we give it res slash res slash, we'll just call it grass.png. Now, obviously, we don't have a grass.png at the moment, so we're going to go create one in a second. Yep, so basically just like what we did right there. And then, since that's our only animation there, it should automatically render. So, what we're going to do is, I guess we're going to go ahead and create a grass image real quick. Yeah, if I had planned this ahead of time, I would have already created a grass image, but for our purposes, it's going to be really simple. I'm just going to go into GIMP real quick and whip something up. going to create a new, let's just make it 128 by 128, filled with background color. Let's set this to be green, like so. And well, I might as well go ahead and create a tileable, just a background texture of some kind. Let's give this a darker green right here and throw some random spots of this worst texture in the world, but we're going to go ahead and use that. And to make it tileable, I'm going to go to Image, Transform, oh sorry, Layer, Transform, Offset X2, Y2, like that. I'm going to go in here. I'm probably spending more time on this image than I should be, since this is in fact a coding tutorial. Go in here, get my clone brush so that I can copy from there and try to smooth out these edges so that it doesn't look quite so tiley. Like that. And in here, like I said, we're not going for huge amounts of accuracy right now because this is not a graphics tutorial. As you can tell, I am not a game artist by any stretch of the imagination. So we're going to offset this again. Finally. Okay, now we're going to export as, I'm going to go into, where is it, Studio, Eclipse Tutorial Workspace, and Java OpenGL game, res, here we go, grass.png, and we're going to export it. There we go. Now, back into here. So if we go into, I believe it's our engine, go into main. Here we've got world.addObject, new test player. Before that, we're going to say world.addTile. We're going to say new grass tile. Obviously this will throw us an error because we haven't imported grass tile, so we'll do that. And another error because add tile is not a method yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into world, and we're going to add a method, public static void add tile, and it takes a tile as an argument. So we're just going to call it tile. And what it does is it's going to do tiles dot add tile. Pretty self-explanatory. We're going to save that. Now, tiles currently does nothing. It holds the tiles, but it doesn't do anything with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into render, add a comment here, render all the tiles. We're going to say for tile in tiles tile.render. Now, let's see what happens when we start this up. See if we've done everything correctly. Please don't freeze. And we have nothing. Let's find out why. Input equals null. Oh, okay. I went ahead and put the image in here, but I need to refresh this in order to get it to show up. It doesn't know that it exists. Let's start again. There we go. Now we've got our player, and we've got a tile right there. Now, what we really want to be able to do is be able to add these tiles really quickly. And we can actually do that very simply by simply adding a for loop of sorts. So if we go into our main class where we add the tiles, let's go ahead and create a for loop. We're going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than, let's say 10, and I plus plus. Actually, change this to x, because we're going to have an x and we're going to have a y. So I'm going to put a for loop inside of a for loop. The inside one is going to be y, the outside one is going to be x. Like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new tile. We're going to say grass tile equals new grass tile. Tile.x equals tile.width times x, and tile.y equals tile.height times y. This should lay out an array of tiles where we got 10 tiles wide and 10 tiles tall. Let's go ahead and then say, I'm going to copy the world.addTile line and stick it into the inner for loop. Say world.addTile, and we're going to put in the tile we just created. Just like that. Couldn't be any simpler. Well, it could, but we're not going to. And so we start it up, and it crashes. Let's find out why. Null on thread game loop. Concurrent modification exception. Okay, that's kind of what I figured would happen. Concurrent modification exception occurs when we try to add something to it. Watch, I'll bet if we run it again, we don't necessarily get the same error. If we run it now, yeah, okay, we do get the same error. Never mind. The reason why this is happening is because we are trying to render, we're going through the loop of rendering the tiles, and while we're doing that, we're adding to the array of tiles. We shouldn't be doing that, because you'll get what's called a concurrent modification exception. Basically, that means you've modified an array while you're going through the array at the same time, and you get that error. The solution is to use an array that is meant to be modified while you're using it. And the best one that I can think of for that is what is called a concurrent linked list, or in this case, a concurrent linked queue, I think. Create a private static concurrent linked queue, I believe it is. Let's see. We try to import, we don't get anything. Let's fill this out. We'll typify it with tile, and we'll call it tiles. Now, yes, import concurrent linked queue. That's a thing, apparently. And it's called tiles, which is a duplicate of this, so get rid of that. So tiles, right there. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create one of these for the tiles, and we're going to create one for game objects, because this error can happen on both. So, tiles equals new concurrent linked queue called, no, not called, but of the type tile. Now, concurrent linked queues are meant to be manipulated by two threads at once. And the way that works is, instead of using tiles.add, you're going to say tiles.offer. And what offer means, in this case, is it will add something. It's basically like add. It adds it, but it's safe for multi-threading. So we're just going to go ahead and use tiles.offer. And now here, what we're going to use is, okay guys, I went ahead and checked with my old code, and actually the way we are doing it is correct. Once we've gotten this turned into a concurrent linked queue, and we use tiles.offer instead of tiles.add, once we've done that, we basically get the same result that we would have gotten if we had simply used concurrent, or if we had used an array list, except that now we can modify it from two threads at the same time. So, if you go ahead and run your game, you should see, yes, we build up this mass of tiles up here, and we can control our player. Now, the thing is, this is not actually, we're not actually going to be able to see the full array of tiles just yet, because the camera does not follow the player. But in the next episode, we're going to get camera following working, and I hope it's not a whole nother year before I put up the next video. I will try to start being consistent again. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, whatever. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. But we're really going to try and get this done because I really want to get back into this and stay consistent with it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and especially if you've been sticking with it, sticking with all the other videos, even though I haven't uploaded anything in the last year. I appreciate your loyalty anyway, and I will try to be consistent and upload more videos from now on. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.